Yo, what's up? Welcome to Numbers with Jacari. I'm your host, Jacari, but you already know, call me Ace. And in this episode, we're discussing the number one in 2024. So if you have a psychic number one, meaning you're born the 1st, the 10th, the 19th, or the 28th, a destiny/life path number one, a name number one, or you're in a personal 1 year, I recommend you listen to this, but I also recommend you listen to all the other numbers because you will have supplementary numbers, which is the number that you get before you get that final digit. So if you're born also even on the 11th through, or the 11th through the 18th as well, you would have a 1 in your numbers, or the 21st, there'd be a 1 there. The 31st, there'd be a 1 there. So anywhere where you might have a 1, if you're doing your math or your calculations, if you have a 1, I would definitely recommend checking this out. And the same thing for the rest of the episodes. So if you're liking what you're hearing, make sure you share it on your socials and tag me at Numbers with Jacari on Instagram or on TikTok, and all the direct links are in the description of this episode. If you want more help with understanding your personal numerology, that is something I do in my services, so you can go ahead and book with me whenever you're ready. But let's go ahead and get into it. So the number one is ruled by the sun. If you've heard my number one episode, I would recommend checking that out to learn more about the number one, because we're not going to talk too much about the specifics of the number one. But a very big theme for this year in regards to the number one is confidence. The relationality between 1 and 8 is one that's very interesting and very intense. They both have a relationship with power and intensity, because 1 highlights this illumination. If you think about its ruler, the sun, of what it does in our solar system, of it's very powerful, it's very bright, it's very big, it's very shiny, it takes up a lot of space, and it keeps everything moving. Now 8 being ruled by Saturn and Pluto, it's not the same energy. It's a little bit slower moving. Saturn is a little bit farther away, so is Pluto, so there's a little bit of distance, but the awareness and illumination that the sun brings and sort of kind of can ignite that intensity with the 8, because 1 is a natural amplifier, and 8's ruler Pluto is also a very natural amplifier. So you can see things changing for number 1 in regards to career, authority figure, business, boundaries, your personal power, authenticity, perception of self, confidence, stability, and things of that sort. Also security is in there as well. Safety's in there as well. And when I'm saying all of these themes, I want you to think about them on different perspectives of it, because that self-perception can, it might be a thing around depression or intrusive thoughts, but it can also be gaining more confidence or understanding how to love yourself better is another thing that comes with that self-perception. So when I'm saying these very broad themes, I want you to do that personal work to really be able to understand, okay, how can I see this in my own personal experience? Because, I might be talking to you, but you're not talking to me right this second. We not hearing each other, or rather, I'm not hearing you, so I don't know exactly what you're going through. So I want you to take this information and use it for your benefit. And one of the things that 1 can struggle with this year would be themes around patience and taking your time, because 8 is very much slow and steady. It's very much plan it out. Let's take our time. Let's do these details. Let's get everything in a spreadsheet type vibe. Whereas 1 can very much be, I just want to get it done. I just want to do it. I don't care how messy and how chaotic it is. I just want to get it done. And that can be where 1 very much will trip up this year, is in that rushing the process, because another thing that comes up is trusting the process and understanding that, good things don't necessarily take time in regards to a long period of time, but you got to put in a little bit of time to some extent. And because the thing is, take time does not mean it's going to be 5 years. Time can be 5 days, 5 hours even, because time is a man-made construct, which is a conversation for another day. But allowing yourself to really just take in, okay, this is what I'm trying to accomplish, this is how I'm going to get there, and sort of kind of save yourself the struggle of tripping over your feet and stumbling and having to restart and stop and all of these things. Take your time to give yourself a little bit more of an action plan, and not think of it so much of planning of, okay, I gotta, we're gonna wake up at this time and we're gonna do this at this time. No, I'm not saying do that. I'm just saying give yourself a clear idea of how to achieve your goals. I think clarity is another thing that really ties into this year, because in regards to 8's slower moving energy, especially with that Saturn rulership and 1's desire to simply achieve and get it done, and is very ambitious, that can become very overwhelming for 1 to experience, of having to take your time. But it also is it's for the better. So I'm not necessarily against it. Now there is also themes around anxiety, imposter syndrome, uncertainty, second guessing oneself, and that comes in regards to confidence being a theme. So we have duality that will come up with all of these themes that I've already listed, but that imposter syndrome, in taking the time to create whatever you're trying to create, you might feel like, okay, well, maybe I don't know what I'm doing, because you're used to things just being go, 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 go. But when you're actually taking that time to step back and look at everything that you're achieving and looking at everything that you're building, it's a different perspective, and that shift in perspective can be anxiety inducing. It can also be just traumatizing in its own way, but it's also here to help you and to help guide you to wherever you're trying to go in the best way possible. And when you're able to change your perspective and take the time to see things from different angles, you might find an easier way or even a quicker way to get whatever you're trying to get done. I would say that the popularization of the 12-week year is something that would possibly resonate with the number one of it shortens the year in a sense of the things that you want to achieve. So you're quote unquote achieving things quicker. So I'd recommend, if that's something that you want to do, I'd say tap into that. But I think my overall suggestions for this year is make sure you're being yourself. Authenticity is very, very big for the number one. So making sure you are showing up as you, whoever that is, showing every side of yourself. And this doesn't mean to everybody. It's very much being true within yourself and sharing what you want to share with whoever you want to share it with. Just because you are authentically you does not mean that everybody needs to know everything about you. It doesn't necessarily mean oversharing or giving every little bit of yourself to every little person. No. It just means standing who you are and being who you are and showing up as who you would like to show up as in yourself. So be yourself to the fullest of extent. I would also say look back on what you've accomplished with things moving at a quote unquote slower rate, or time just feeling like a very weird thing, because it's just like it can feel like it's moving slower, it can also feel like it's moving really, really fast. So with the relationship that one will have with time this year, being able to look at where you've come from to get to this point, a very beneficial thing. And if it's a situation of you don't really feel like you've had anything to look back on, look forward to what you're about to achieve and say, yeah, I've achieved this. And sort of you can make yourself a list of the things that you've achieved in 2024 of, oh, yep, I got my new apartment, I got my car, I got to pay off my this, I got to do this, whatever the case may be, I got into a happy, loving relationship, whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. Look forward to that if you don't have something to look back on to encourage you to keep going. And then also practice mindfulness. Mindfulness is a very, very big thing, especially with the spikes around anxiety and uncertainty and imposter syndrome, because that also can bring in intrusive thoughts as well. Mindfulness, because not every single thought deserves your attention nor needs your attention. Some of them are very much throwaways. So you don't have to entertain every little thing that comes up for you, and especially the ones that are taking up so much space in your energy. You can compartmentalize within reason, but you don't need to give every negative thought the time of day, because they don't really need to be here. Now, I will say that the months to note are the biggest ones are January, February, March, April, and May. Those first 5 months for the number one, love that. I honestly love that. And it's because we're starting in January in a universal 9 month, February will be a universal 1 month, March will be a universal 2 month, April will be a universal 3 month, and May will be a universal 4 month. Now this is all very relevant because of one's relationality with all of these numbers, because the number one is one of the most adaptable numbers out there. It's the first number, so it sort of gets along with everybody to some extent. I would say 6 and 8 are the two numbers that it's a little bit more like, I don't know. So this year, that's why there's emphasis on anxiety for that number this year. But 9 has a reflection between 1 and 9, or 9 has a reflection between the number 1. So that reflection brings a level of internalization. So that anxiety might spike a little bit more this month in January, and it might feel a little bit more overwhelming. Not so much of the positive sides, but at the same time, it gives you more ambition and more drive because of the energies that 9 brings to the table, alongside with that universal 8 year. Now, when we get to February is the second calendar month, so we're taking that into account as well. But it's going to be universal 1 month. 1 and 2 work really well together due to the fact that, or they can work really well together due to the fact that 1 is half of 2, so there's multiples in there. So I'm not too mad at that. But the thing with that little subtle, very subtle 2 energy in there, that's lunar energy versus that solar energy. But I do want to put a little bit more emphasis on that universal 1 energy that will give you more of a support to your initial power of it's that sun energy. So you're very much in your natural bag and sort of kind of feeling yourself. So I would say that you get a little bit more confidence in February, feeling a little bit more powerful within yourself in February. And yes, it's maybe the shortest month of the year, but I'm not mad at it because you do also have a universal 1 month in November as well. But I would say that I want to say that that's during number one's week period based off of Vedic numerology, which you can check that out more in my intro to numerology guide. But I really do like February. There's an emphasis on confidence for that month, as well as stability and security. And then for March, we have an emphasis around emotionality, honesty, trustworthiness. Vulnerability is also in there, and using your emotional power. Power is a very, very big theme overall for the number one this year, and it's very much self-initiating. Power. So thinking about it in that way, April brings that 3 energy in there, and 3 is ruled by that Mars, Jupiter, and Venus. So check out my episode on the number 3 if you want to learn more about that. And that's bringing a space, and also there's a level of optimism that the number 3 has, and there's also a level of luck in there as well. So it might be a little interesting considering that it is a universal 8 year, so there's that a little bit of a slower moving energy. So I won't say that everything will go automatically in your way in April, because duality, things can just, the way that it can go really, really good, it can also go really, really bad. So I'm not going to sit up here and lie to you or play in your face. I'm not one of them. So that 3 energy, or rather that 3 energy, can bring a lot of creativity and optimism, and also like I said, a luck, but also that expansion that creates the space and potentiality and possibility for you to create something. It also connects to social spaces. So it puts an emphasis on your relationship with people, and also social interaction, social media as well is thrown in there. Anything that would interact with other people on a larger scale than just one-on-one interactions or intimate relationships with like friends or family or partners. So there's that. And then also May being that universal 4 month, I think that's probably one of my favorite months. I would say January, March, and May are probably my top 3 months for the number one this year, because of the relationality that's in there. Because May is bringing that universal 4 energy, and 4 works great with the number 8 because it's half of 8, and 1 works great with 4. So that relationality brings a very strong push. So if you've been sitting down for that first couple months of 2024, May might be there to push you along, because 4 is a very spiritually guided number. It's very faith-based. So there's a very strong emphasis on trusting the process again. A very strong emphasis on trusting the process and trusting in whoever you believe in and whatever you feel called to work with in regards to spiritual powers. So allowing yourself to really lean into that in the month of May, I think would be very beneficial. I really like that. June and July aren't necessarily my favorite months for the number one in regards to the relationality with the universal 8 year. So I'm not even gonna touch that for real. I won't say it's gonna be bad, but it's the relationality is not where I want it to be. But when we get to like August, I really do like August because it has that 7 energy, the universal 7 energy, and 1 and 7 works really, really well. So that brings in this introspection and this deeper sense of self and this understanding, this internal space, as well as wanting to dive deeper into something, and also themes around nostalgia, fantasy, mystery, the past, history, and things along that sort. We also have October, November, December being of relevance, but not as much relevance as like January, March, and May. But October is that universal 9 month, and then November is that universal 1, and December is that universal 2. And I do like those. So what was happening at the beginning of the year, just put at the end of the year. Like I did say, that would be during the number one's week period. So and a week period is very basically how it's described in Vedic numerology. Is just saying, okay, yeah, this isn't the best time. I will say Vedic is a lot more aggressive in regards to don't do nothing. It's like, don't spend no money, don't make no big purchases, like try just live below your means type vibe is the way Vedic will structure it. I, however, will say that do what you feel like you should do. I wouldn't say necessarily wait for a strong period to go for the thing. So if you feel in October, November, or December that you want to start something, or you feel that push, trust that push. Trust your intuition, use your discernment with everything that I'm saying. But overall, I'm not too mad at the year for the number one. I'm looking forward to see how this plays out. And if you are a number one and you enjoyed this, share this with somebody else who has a number one in their numbers. Send me any questions that you have about the number one, if you got any, or even about your personal year. And also book me if you want to even know even more personal to you, because this is general information. It might feel like it's resonating for you, and that's very great. I love that for you, but I would love for you to be able to understand it on a deeper, more personal level that is very much structured to you, because that is what I provide in my services. But thank you for listening. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Numbers with Jacari, and I will definitely catch you in the next one. Peace.